Hello, everybody. Scapegoat here. I thought I would video a second time since the first recording didn't have audio. My unboxing of the Kickstarter that I backed for the G.I. Joe Compendium of comics, and show you some of the things I got with the box, and let you see the quality of it, and maybe see if you want to go out and grab one yourself. So let's grab some of the extras I got on here. Which you can see I've already came through, across through here. So we got us a patch. Looks like it could be sewn onto something. Cobra symbol. Double-sided bookmark. Cobra. Cobra Commander in the armor suits. First Cobra Commander action figure I actually owned. Came in at a time right past the original run of the Cobra Commander Destro, leaders basically of both sides, and didn't really own a Cobra Commander till I come across him. Same thing with Storm Shadow. Had to get the remake basically. Let's see, we got some stickers, a couple stickers here. It's not reflective of the Cobra symbol. Of course, me ordering the Cobra pack, the Kickstarter, you could have bought the G.I. Joe pack or the Cobra pack, and of course, me buying the Cobra pack, I guess I'm getting more Cobra themed accessories with it. Got some larger prints here, and from what I've looked at, they seem to be of the trading cards, just in larger size. We've got the Baroness. These feel like a postcard. They're not slick or anything. Snake Eyes. Storm Shadow. Just a blank backer here, looks like. And so they sent me 3 comics also that are, these are from Image. And I'm curious to see, once I've looked through this, how the transition is from the Marvel comics into Image comics, and I think there was a Devil's Due or something like that in between. They switched publishers, and I'm curious how the storylines, if they continued. I know a couple I've picked up that it seemed like they were trying to rewrite origin stories of people. So I got these with the backings on them. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pull them out. But we got Snake Eyes here in the atypical Spider-Man pose that I've probably got 10 comics of him doing the same. That's pretty neat. Of course, Storm Shadow and a G.I. Joe yearbook. And I'm assuming this is going to be like the Order of Battle comics from the original run that told you about each individual Joe, kind of a backstory ish, maybe on some of the vehicles. It's a pretty thick comic, so I may take it out, take a look. And got a set of trading cards. One set is Larry Hama, pretty much the father of G.I. Joe. And he came with Zap. And I don't know what the significance is of having Zap with him, or if that's just somebody they picked randomly. But those two came in a pack. Zap, just your typical G.I. Joe anti-tank grunt. And I got a whole set of these trading cards, which I'll start off with to me, one of the most controversial figures, Gobulus. Golobulus. I always called him Gobulus, but Golobulus. Cartoon watchers will remember him from the G.I. Joe the movie and Cobra Law in that storyline, which I'm eager to see how that overlaps with the comics, because the comics are different, a bit different from the cartoons. The stories are about the same characters, but they're told a different way, more, I won't say mature, but just I think a better storytelling way in the comics. It's the comics to me are like your modern day Marvel movies. What if superheroes existed in modern day? They're like, what if G.I. Joe actually existed in modern day? How they would fit in and everything. So I'm curious to see how, if he actually shows up in the comics, or they just made a trading card for him. Scrap Iron. Wild Weasel. I think he was the pilot for a Rattler. Zarana. Sister of Zartan. Crocmaster. Of course, Cobra always had the unique villains. Crimson Guard. Get these up here a little better for you. The Cobra Bat. Copperhead. Firefly. And Dr. Mindbender. Of course, these are all going to be Cobra characters since I've got the Cobra edition of this compendium. Tomax and Zaymont, the Crimson Twins, the financial guys. That's another difference between the comics and the cartoons. The cartoons, you watch them, you knew the Crimson Twins were two guys, CEOs of some business that said Enterprise up and down the side of the building. The comics went in a little more detail about how they made their money. Serpentor. And I'm curious about his backstory. Of course, in the cartoons, you saw how they stole the DNA of various leaders, Genghis Khan and Attila the Hun, and a lot of people to form Serpentor, basically. Oh, I'm wondering how that. I cannot remember in the comics if they go over the same story and do the same thing, or he just appears and you're just supposed to know. Hey, cartoon told you how he was created. Zartan. Major Blood. Destro. Sorry, I'm not a professional videographer, or whatever you want to call this. This is my first unboxing. The Baroness. And of course, Cobra Commander. So those are pretty cool trading cards. I'm going to look and see if I can't maybe find some out in the wild. I don't know if this is something specially made for the Kickstarter or they just added it as a bonus. But they are pretty neat. The backs of everyone have a little story to tell about the character. Okay, so we'll get this compendium out. It is pretty hefty. Pretty hefty box that opens up here to show you the 4 compendiums, and it says image on them, but I'm pretty sure they were Marvel. I'm not sure what the Image may own the rights to them now. And I noticed when I was looking at these a while ago on the video I messed the audio up on, I didn't see any Marvel logos, so Image may have bought the rights to them. But these books are pretty solid. I'm not sure if that's leather. Feels like leather. Maybe faux leather. Bound. Like I say, they're pretty hefty. They feel really nice, and when I'm opening these, you can hear, these things just came off the printing press. You can hear that. And this is the first compendium, so it starts off G.I. Joe #1. And I don't see, maybe right here where it's blacked out, it should have been Marvel or Spider-Man's head. It says Stan Lee Presents, so, and the scripter Larry Hama. But I talked with my brother about if we own this, because we owned quite a bit of G.I. Joe comics, and I couldn't tell you which ones I own and which ones I don't. And this is one I'm trying to think of if we owned, and we haven't come up with an answer yet for that, but now I kind of own it. Nice little divider in between the comics, the stories. So this first one ends up with Serpentor, so 46. So you probably got about 49. So 1 through 49, you got 49 comics, G.I. Joe comics in this one compendium. And I believe there are 155 in total from this run here. Like I say, this is going to be the original run. Let's see, what year did that start? Didn't really say. I don't think that was 64. I don't think they were that old. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's that old. Oh yeah, and then the very back, I got a little sketch, Snake Eyes, and a poster of Duke. I'm going to fold this one. Turn that around there. I have to check these other ones. So that's just the first one. I thought I'd show everything I got in this because I know people want to come watch this video and see what I got in it instead of me yapping about other stuff. I'll yap about other stuff here in a minute. Let's see. Compendium 2. Following is a G.I. Joe Special Missions preview story originally printed as a backup in G.I. Joe Real American Hero 50. Special Missions. So they've added, not to spoil some of these later stuff, they've added some of these special one-offs that they printed in between. So let's see what they added in the back of this one. It kind of looks like Cobra Commander. It is. Very nice. I didn't know about the posters in the back. So my rantings are about the differences in the cartoons and these comics. I'm a fan of both. The stories, a lot of the stories are not similar either. I do not believe the comics convey the Cobra Law story. I may be wrong. I may go through here and it does convey the Cobra Law story. But from what I remember, Cobra Commander through the comics was a man who started a pyramid scheme, I think a town called Springfield, and tried to recruit a bunch of people into it and formed Cobra. Of course, the cartoon movie had you believe he was a scientist for a group of aliens that I guess lived underground and was scarred by spores that turned him into a half reptile, half human, and that's why he wore the mask. I don't think that's how it went in the comics. I could be wrong, but I just don't. From the few comics we picked up, like I picked up pretty heavily on them, and then we were in the middle of basically that downturn for comics, and it became harder and harder to find comics, and then the kind of interest kind of waned. And unless you were subscribed and getting them in the mail, it was hard to know when the next issue was because it wasn't always monthly. Um, and this was before the internet. And you just, unless you're on some kind of newsletter like snail mail letter, you just didn't know when the new ones were out, and you kind of lost interest. And so every now and then I would see a G.I. Joe comic, and I'd pick it up and I'd read it and try to pick up on the storyline and stuff. And I just don't remember seeing anything about Cobra Law in these comics. Like I say, when I go through this, I'm gonna make another video and say, hey, I was completely wrong. They talked about Cobra Law, but I just the differences between the comics and the cartoons, the way they portray Cobra Commander, to me was pretty significant. And how a lot of these storylines, like in the cartoons, maybe Cobra one or two. You know, I consider them creating Serpentors a win. In the comics was totally different. They won quite a bit. It was more realistic. I say realistic. It's all fantasy, but and you can see a lot of the artwork in this. It's really nice. So the comics, to me, when I had my GI Joe figures, I probably drew more inspiration from the comics in my mind playing with my GI Joes than I did the cartoons. You know, the cartoons were, I know they were a vehicle for driving toy sales. I'm sure in part the comics were too. But the comics to me told more of a story than the cartoons. Cartoons had your less than 30-minute time frame to tell this short story, and then at the end they would tell you, hey kids, don't touch that live power line, or hey, don't take your parents' prescription drugs. You know, they had a nice little thing at the end where the comics didn't always end happy. I remember picking back up in the middle of picking up one and seeing a lot of the Joes die to Saw Viper in one of these comics. And that was one of the things around that time. Well, this was a little past the time where you had Transformers the movie and you had G.I. Joe the movie. And Transformers the movie, everybody remembers, is probably my age. You went in there and all of a sudden all the Transformers could shoot. They could aim. They knew how to aim. And like 20 of them died in the movie, including Optimus Prime. Spoilers. And that was traumatizing as a kid, seeing all these people just die. And you think back on it now, and it was mainly to sell new toys. They wanted to sell new toys. You know, they wanted new Transformers. People got tired of the original Transformers. Well, G.I. Joe, I think, picked up on that when their movie came out. Of course, Duke got stabbed by that snake, and he falls into a coma. I think he was supposed to die. And they just added that little tidbit at the end of G.I. Joe the movie. They're like, hey, we got word, Duke's alive. And everybody went, yay. And then the movie ended. I think G.I. Joe got caught wind of, hey, they don't like it when you kill off characters, you know. We'll just kind of introduce some new characters, or what they did with the toys were new versions of the character, or they come out with something like Tiger Force, which was the old vehicles and a new paint job. So seeing all that, just showing you these while I'm blabbing, I think the storytelling was a lot better in the comics. And this was something else I was going to show you. So I believe this was 155 comics in these for the original run, plus some of those special one-offs. And what I really like here, I was noticing a while ago, was at the end of this last compendium, before it hits the end, or after it hits the end of the series, you get some of these other series I know that we had, which were Transformers and G.I. Joe. I know I have this comic. I've just stared at it so much when I was little. I know I have this. You have this 1 in 4 issue G.I. Joe and Transformers. So you have these crossovers in here. You have, well, I guess that's part of the final issue. So you have some of these crossovers are in here, and then towards the back, you have these called Order of Battle. And I really love these. I know we have every one of these because I would just obsess over going through these. And what they were is each issue had one of the Joes, one of the Cobras, or their vehicles. And it gave you a background on them and everything. And I remember just obsessing over these, and I see these here. I need to go out and get the toys. So the comics were part of a driver of toys, and I probably found out more about upcoming toys from the comics than I did the cartoon, which was probably just a factor of what we saw on TV where I lived, because I think there were a lot of episodes. I think we didn't get a lot of the episodes the time they aired. I think we got them on syndication later, and that was just because we had a small, really wasn't even we didn't even have a cable office back then. Watch stuff off satellite dishes, and I'm not talking about a satellite dish size of your chair. I'm talking about one size of your car. Everybody had one in their backyard, and you just have to go. You had to go out there and find where G.I. Joe cartoons were owned, and they were owned in no particular order. So let's see what this back issue is. So this is one of the issues they sent me. So I may not have to open that other one. I may have to open the one they actually sent me. I wonder if they're all in here like that. Doesn't look like it. So yeah, you've got the armored commander. And I want to think Cobra Commander actually looked like something like this. I could be completely wrong, but yeah, this was just seeing all these and seeing these characters is just a trip down memory lane of reading comics, especially playing with G.I. Joes. I would sit in my room for hours playing G.I. Joes, and just seeing these brings back memories of that. And things like, for one birthday, my parents took me to a place that in the small town I lived in, Walmart was basically the only place you could get G.I. Joes, and you were lucky if they had like a third or a fourth of an aisle for G.I. Joes, which was, it was decent back then. But they took me to this place. It wasn't Toys R Us, but it was like a Toys R Us, and the entire aisle was G.I. Joe, and I was just blown away at something having that much of something that I was interested in, and being able to pick out a bunch for my birthday, and it's things like that stuff I'll never forget. And then now having these, I can go back and catch up on what all did I miss, and how did the stories play out differently, because I think I've seen most of the cartoons. I'm really curious how they line up with these, and then now I'll have to look into the Image and the Skybound, and I keep saying Devil's Due. That keeps popping in my mind that they did a run of G.I. Joe. I'm curious if they pick up here, did they try to start over. We'll save that for another time. But I highly recommend, if you're a Joe lover like me, maybe keep a lookout in the wild here soon for these. I know I didn't buy it to sell it. I will be keeping these, and I do not know if these will go to stores after they have shipped out everything. I was lucky. I backed it back in June. I was on the back end of the first shipment, which they were supposed to ship before Christmas, but I just got these today. I'm happy that I got them. So I don't know with all these. They had larger sets. that you could kickstart for. Looking at this, it was $750 to $1,000. I think there was $1,000 in here. Let me look. Maybe that's just what's gone. But if you're a G.I. Joe fanatic fan like me, I think you'll enjoy these. If you've never read the comics, I would highly recommend them. If all you knew was the cartoons, I think you'll get a kick out of the stories in the comics. And I really like it. So just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like I say, I'm not professional at videoing this. I know the angle's kind of off and everything. I may get something fixed in the future if I do more of these unboxings. I plan on getting some cards and doing the Marvel metal card unboxing and stuff like that. So just let me know what you think in the comments, and yo Joe.